gripped the steering wheel, my knuckles white against the leather as my car skidded on the icy Hamptons road. The brakes were dead, my heart thundered, the world blurring into a kaleidoscope of snow and headlights. As I yanked the wheel to avoid a ditch, the tires screeched, fishtailing, and for a split second, I thought this was it. Christmas Eve and I'd die alone on a frozen road, all because I was stubborn enough to believe my family could change. The car lurched to a stop, inches from a snowbank, my breath fogging the windshield. My hands shook as I checked the rearview mirror, half expecting to see someone watching me, some shadowy figure tied to the anonymous text I'd gotten that morning. "Stop digging, or you'll regret it." I didn't know who sent it, but I had a pretty good guess. Ethan, my brother, wasn't above playing dirty to keep his secrets buried. I'm Emily Harper, 34, an investigative journalist in New York City. My name's been in the bylines of exposés that toppled corrupt CEOs and shady politicians, but to my family, I'm just the middle child who never quite measured up. Tonight I was driving to my parents' Hamptons estate for Christmas dinner, clutching a homemade pecan pie and a stack of carefully wrapped gifts, each one chosen with a naive hope that this year might be different. I'd spent weeks planning, pouring my heart into presents that screamed, "See me, love me." From my mother, Victoria, a hand-stitched quilt in her favorite shade of emerald. From my father, James, a rare vinyl of Miles Davis's Kind of Blue. For my younger sister, Chloe, a curated set of vintage Polaroids to fuel her influencer aesthetic. And for Ethan, my older brother, the golden child, the hedge fund kingpin who'd made my life a living hell since we were kids, something special. A sleek black box containing a dossier I'd spent years compiling. Texts, emails, a recording of him gloating about ruining my life, and our great-grandmother's will, proving he'd stolen her diamond-encrusted pendant from me. It was my last-ditch effort to make my family see the truth about him. Or maybe it was just to make them see me. The Hamptons estate loomed ahead, a colonial mansion glowing like a holiday postcard. Twinkling white lights traced the roofline, and twin Christmas trees flanked the entrance, their branches heavy with crystal ornaments. Snow dusted the manicured lawn, and the air carried the scent of pine and roasted chestnut. Inside, I knew the dining room would be a vision, a mahogany table set with my mother's heirloom Christmas china, each plate rimmed with hand-painted holly, napkins folded into perfect swans, and a centerpiece of red roses and white lilies that probably cost more than my monthly rent. This was the Harper family's stage, where wealth and perfection were the currency, and I'd always been bankrupt. I checked my reflection in the car's side mirror, smoothing my auburn hair, styled in loose waves to complement my velvet burgundy dress. It hugged my frame just right, a deliberate choice to project the confidence I didn't always feel around my family. My makeup was subtle but sharp. Winged eyeliner, a touch of blush, lips painted a defiant red. I looked like the woman I'd become, a journalist who'd faced down mob bosses and corporate sharks. But standing on that doorstep, pie in one hand, gifts in the other, I felt like the 7-year-old Emily again, the one who cried herself to sleep after Ethan tore apart her award-winning school article and told our parents I'd done it myself. The door swung open and my mother stood there, elegant in a cream cashmere sweater, her pearl earrings catching the light. "Emily," she said, her smile tight like she was checking a box. "You're early." It wasn't a compliment. She glanced at the pie, her lips pursing. "You didn't have to bring anything. The caterers have everything under control." She took the dish without offering to help with the gifts or my coat, disappearing into the kitchen like I was a delivery driver, not her daughter. I stepped into the foyer, the warmth of the house wrapping around me like a lie. The living room was a buzz of activity, all polished surfaces and forced cheer. My father was clapping Chloe's husband Liam on the back, laughing too loudly at some tech bro joke. "That's my son-in-law," he boomed, his voice carrying over the soft jazz of white Christmas playing from hidden speakers. Across the room, Ethan held court with our aunts and uncles, his tailored suit screaming money, his gestures wide and commanding. His wife, Rachel, stood beside him, her diamond bracelet glinting as she rested a possessive hand on his arm. My cousin Sophia swept in with her new boyfriend, Ryan, a finance bro with a Rolex and a smirk to match. Around her neck, sparkling against her black dress, was the pendant, my pendant, the one great-grandmother Evelyn had promised me before she died, the one Ethan had convinced Sophia to take, claiming I didn't deserve it. "Emily's here," my mother announced, returning from the kitchen. Her voice was flat, like she was reading a weather report. A few heads turned, offering half-hearted waves before diving back into their conversations. Only Chloe broke away, giving me a quick hug. "Love the dress," she whispered, then leaned closer. "Mom's been a wreck about dinner, so maybe don't mention your latest exposé. She got a headache last time you brought up work." Before I could respond, Sophia's voice cut through the room. "Everyone, meet Ryan." The family swarmed them, cooing over the couple, while I stood there, gifts weighing down my arms, feeling like a ghost in my own childhood home. I set the presents under the Christmas tree, its branches dripping with gold ornaments and fairy lights. I tried joining a conversation with Aunt Margaret about her recent trip to Aspen, but she gave me a vague nod and turned away, her attention pulled back to Ethan's story about a yacht deal. The pattern repeated all evening. Conversations stalled when I approached. Relatives excused themselves to refill drinks. Questions about my life were met with polite disinterest. It was like I was a background extra in their perfect holiday movie. When my mother called for family photos, the real blow landed. She orchestrated everyone in front of the fireplace, its logs crackling with warmth. "Ethan and Rachel in the center," she directed. "Chloe and Liam on the left, Sophia and Ryan on the right." Aunts and uncles filled the gaps, their smiles wide for the camera. I stood off to the side, waiting for my place. "Mom," I said quietly, "where should I stand?" She blinked, like I'd startled her out of a trance. "Oh, Emily, could you take the photos? You're so good with cameras." My throat tightened, but I swallowed the hurt, picked up the Nikon and snapped shot after shot of my family, their laughter echoing while I stood invisible behind the lens. As I helped arrange appetizers on the dining room sideboard, Ethan sauntered over, his smirk sharp as a blade. "Burgundy's a bold choice for you," he said, loud enough for nearby cousins to hear. "But I guess journalists don't need to worry about style, do they? All that time chasing scandals." His eyes glinted with malice. I forced a smile, my fingers tightening around a tray of bruschetta. "How's the hedge fund?" His smile faltered, just for a second. "For amateurs, maybe," he shot back, leaning closer. "How's therapy going? Mom says you're working through your issues." The word was a dagger twisting in my gut. I'd told my mother about Dr. Claire Bennett in confidence, a rare moment when she'd seemed to care. Now Ethan was weaponizing it, his voice low but cutting. "We're all worried about your stability, Em." He patted my shoulder, the gesture dripping with condescension, before rejoining Rachel. Across the room, Sophia laughed at something Ryan said, her fingers brushing the pendant. Our eyes met, and I saw a flicker of something. Guilt, maybe, before she turned away. The air felt heavier now, the chandelier's light too bright, the carols too loud. I slipped into the bathroom, locking the door, and stared at my reflection. My lipstick was still perfect, my dress flawless, but my eyes betrayed the ache inside. How had I been so naive? I'd come here with a pie and presents, thinking I could win a place at their table when they'd never even wanted me in the room. I splashed cold water on my face, my resolve hardening. Under Ethan's plate in the dining room was an envelope I'd slipped there earlier, hidden beneath the Christmas china. Inside was my dossier. Screenshots of texts where he bragged about turning our parents against me. Emails he'd sent to aunts and uncles painting me as unhinged. A recording from last Thanksgiving where he laughed about sabotaging my relationships. And a copy of great-grandmother Evelyn's will naming me as the rightful heir to the pendant. I debated for weeks whether to bring it. Dr. Bennett had warned me that confronting a family this entrenched in their dynamics rarely worked, but I needed to try. One last stand before I walked away for good. I straightened my shoulders, reapplied my lipstick, and unlocked the door. The dining room was calling, and I wasn't leaving without a fight. The table was a masterpiece, a vision of holiday excess. The mahogany gleamed under the chandelier, its holly-wrapped crystals casting prisms across the room. A red and gold runner stretched down the center, adorned with pine cones and cinnamon sticks. Tall candles flickered in silver holders, their glow reflecting off crystal wine glasses. The Christmas china was immaculate, each plate a work of art, napkins folded into perfect trees with star-shaped rings. The centerpiece, roses, lilies, pine branches, was a florist's dream, delivered that morning at a cost that could have funded a small investigative series. My mother had always been a stickler for perfection, and this table was her magnum opus. Everyone was finding their seats, exclaiming over the setup. My father took the head, Victoria the foot. Ethan and Rachel sat at his right, the place of honor. Chloe and Liam were at my mother's side, Sophia and Ryan across from Ethan. Aunts and uncles filled the rest, their chatter a hum of anticipation. I stood in the doorway, waiting for someone to notice the math didn't add up. 12 people, 11 seats, no place card with my name. "Mom," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "Where should I sit?" The room went quiet, forks pausing mid-air. Victoria froze, a ladle of mashed potatoes hovering over a bowl. Her smile was practiced, like she was addressing a minor catering glitch. "Oh, Emily," she said, her tone light as frost. "The table's full with everyone here. I thought you could eat in the car. Just for tonight." The words hit like a slap, sharp and cold. I gripped the doorframe, my nails digging into the wood. Around the table, eyes dropped to plates, wine glasses suddenly fascinating. Aunt Margaret adjusted her napkin, avoiding my gaze. Then Ethan spoke, his voice casual but venomous. "Why would we waste a seat on you?" His smirk was a blade, slicing through the silence. The room tilted, my pulse roaring in my ears. I looked at each face, searching for an ally. My father stared at his turkey, cutting it with surgical precision. Chloe bit her lip, her eyes darting to Ethan, but she said nothing. Rachel shifted uncomfortably but placed her hand over Ethan's, a silent endorsement. Sophia touched the pendant, then dropped her hand when she saw me watching. Ryan frowned, confused, but stayed silent. My mother resumed serving, as if suggesting I eat alone in a freezing car on Christmas was just another Tuesday. My face burned, but I wouldn't cry. Not here, not in front of Ethan. I'd spent years chasing their approval, blaming myself for not being enough. Smart enough, pretty enough, successful enough. But standing there, excluded from their perfect table, I saw it clearly. The problem was never me. It was them. And I was done playing their game. I thought about the envelope under Ethan's plate, the dossier that could unravel his carefully crafted image. I thought about the years of lies. Age 7, when he'd destroyed my article and won the school prize with my father's help. Age 16, when he told my prom date I was cheating, leaving me humiliated in a dress I'd saved months to buy. Age 20, when he spread rumors that broke up my first serious relationship. The memories flooded back, each one a brick in the wall they'd built to keep me out. And then there was the pendant. Great-grandmother Evelyn had told me stories about it, how it had been crafted in Paris in the 1920s, its diamonds a symbol of our family's resilience through the Great Depression. She'd promised it to me, her favorite, the one who listened to her tales late into the night. But after her funeral, Sophia had shown up wearing it, claiming Evelyn gave it to her privately. Ethan's doing, of course. He'd convinced her I didn't want it, that I was too unstable to handle it. My parents believed him, as always, telling me not to make a scene. Every family gathering since, that pendant had glittered around Sophia's neck, a constant reminder of what was stolen from me. I took a deep breath, the air sharp with the scent of turkey and pine. I could leave now, drive back to my Manhattan apartment and let them win again. Or I could stay, force them to face the truth, and walk away on my terms. Dr. Bennett's words echoed in my head. You're playing a rigged game, Emily. The only way to win is to stop playing. But I wasn't ready to quit, not yet. Dinner is served, my mother called, her voice cutting through the tension. Everyone moved to their seats, the clink of glasses and silverware filling the silence. I stepped forward, no longer hovering in the doorway. The dossier was my ace, and I was about to play it. I walked to the Christmas tree, its lights casting a soft glow over the pile of gifts. I picked up Ethan's, small, wrapped in silver paper with a black ribbon, innocent on the outside, but a grenade within. The room watched, conversations faltering. I approached the table, my heels clicking on the hardwood, and stood behind Ethan's chair. He twisted to look at me, his eyes narrowing. For once, I was the one looking down. Ethan, I said, my voice calm but carrying a weight that silenced the room, I brought something special for you. His expression shifted, annoyance, then wariness. He knew me well enough to sense this wasn't the usual Emily, the one who absorbed his cruelty like a sponge. Can it wait? Victoria snapped, her ladle clattering against a bowl. We're eating. No, I said, my gaze locked on Ethan. It can't. I set the box beside his plate, the silver paper catching the candlelight. Open it, or check under your plate first. His jaw tightened, a flicker of unease crossing his face. He reached for the plate, hesitating, then lifted it. The cream-colored envelope sat there, unassuming but lethal. The table was silent, every eye on him. What is this? He demanded, his voice low, like he could intimidate me into backing down. The truth, I said simply. Something this family doesn't deal in. He tore open the envelope, his fingers betraying a slight tremble. As he scanned the first page, his face went pale, then flushed red with anger. The dossier was thorough. Texts where he bragged to friends about turning our parents against me, emails to our aunts painting me as a liar, a recording from last Thanksgiving where he laughed about sabotaging my career, and the will, clear as day, naming me as the pendant's heir. What's in it? Chloe asked, her voice small. Ethan tried to shove the papers back into the envelope, but Liam grabbed it, his eyes widening as he read. Jesus, Ethan, he muttered, flipping through the texts. Sophia leaned forward, her hand on the pendant. Is that true? She asked, her voice shaking. Did you tell me Emily didn't want it? This is ridiculous, Ethan snapped, standing so fast his chair scraped the floor. She's making it up, as usual. But his voice cracked, and I saw the panic in his eyes. Then show them, I said, my tone even. If I'm lying, let everyone read it. Rachel reached for the dossier, her face hard. Give it to me, Ethan. He pulled it away. But Liam was already reading aloud. Told Mom Emily's unstable again. She ate it up. So easy. The room erupted. Victoria's fork clattered to her plate. Emily, this is unacceptable, she cried, but James held up a hand, his face conflicted. Sophia's eyes filled with tears, her fingers clutching the pendant. "You lied to me," she whispered to Ethan. I took a step back, letting the chaos unfold. The dossier was doing its work, cracking the facade Ethan had built over decades. I turned to leave, but not before dropping one final bombshell. "There's a note under your plate, too, Ethan," I said. He lifted it again, revealing my handwritten words. "This is the last time I'll try to make you see me. I release you from pretending to care, and I release myself from needing your approval." His eyes scanned the note, his face a mask of rage and fear. I didn't wait for his response. I grabbed my coat and purse, walked through the living room, and stepped into the snowy night. The cold bit my skin as I reached my car, snowflakes swirling in the glow of the porch light. Behind me, raised voices spilled from the house, Ethan's denials, Rachel's accusations, Sophia's sobs. I slid behind the wheel, my breath steady for the first time all night. The text from that morning flashed in my mind. "Stop digging." But I pushed it aside. I'd faced worse than threats in my career. I started the engine and drove away, the Hamptons estate shrinking in my rearview mirror. 20 minutes later, I checked into the Ocean View Inn, a boutique hotel catering to Christmas stragglers like me. The lobby was warm, a towering tree sparkling in the corner, "O Holy Night" playing softly. "Just you tonight?" the receptionist, a woman named Lily, asked with a kind smile. I nodded, aware of how I looked. A woman in a party dress, no luggage, checking in alone on Christmas Eve. "Change of plans?" I said. Lily's eyes held a flicker of understanding. "I've put you in a room with a view of the bay. The restaurant's open till 9 if you're hungry." I thanked her, took the key card, and headed to my room. I kicked off my heels, wrapped myself in the hotel's plush robe, and ordered room service. A Christmas plate of roast turkey, cranberry sauce, and pumpkin pie. I ate by the window, watching snow fall over the dark bay, the lights of distant yachts twinkling like stars. My phone buzzed relentlessly. Chloe, asking what was in the dossier. Victoria, demanding I apologize for ruining Christmas. James, pleading for me to call. I ignored them all, even the new text from an unknown number. "You'll pay for this." My stomach twisted, but I refused to let fear take hold. I'd exposed Ethan, and whatever came next, I'd face it head-on. The next morning, I woke to sunlight filtering through the curtains, the bay glittering below. I ordered coffee and journaled, a habit Dr. Bennett had drilled into me. I wrote about the dinner, Ethan's smirk, the dossier's impact, and the strange peace I felt leaving that house. My phone lit up again. Sophia, asking to meet. Not about the pendant, about Ethan. I agreed to coffee at a nearby cafe, curious but guarded. At the saltwater brew, Sophia sat at a corner table, the pendant absent from her neck. Her eyes were red, her hands fidgeting with a napkin. "Thank you for coming," she said as I sat down. "After you left, everything fell apart." Liam read the dossier aloud. Rachel found texts to another woman. Ethan tried to burn the papers, but we stopped him. She paused, her voice breaking. "Is it true he told me you didn't want the pendant?" Nodded. "And that I was too unstable to have it?" She shook her head, tears spilling. "I never said those things about you, Emily. I thought you hated me." We talked for 2 hours, unraveling years of Ethan's lies. She admitted he'd fed her stories about my jealousy, turning us against each other. By the end, she slid a small box across the table. Inside was the pendant, its diamonds catching the cafe's light. "It was always yours," she said. I closed the box, my throat tight. "Thank you." Back at the hotel, I learned the fallout was bigger than I'd thought. Chloe texted that Rachel had left Ethan, filing for divorce after finding more incriminating messages. James called, his voice heavy with guilt. "I should have spoken up," he said. "I've let Ethan run this family too long." I didn't forgive him. Not yet. But his words were a start. Then came the real shock. My newsroom office had been broken into overnight, files on Ethan's hedge fund dealings gone. The anonymous texts continued. Back off or it's not just your career. I reported it to the police, but my gut told me Ethan's connections ran deep, maybe deeper than I'd realized. A week later, at a charity gala in Manhattan, he cornered me near the coat room, his face a mask of rage. "You think you can take me down?" he hissed. "I have friends who can make you disappear." Security was close, but his words chilled me. I smiled, refusing to flinch. "Try it, Ethan. I've got copies of everything." By February, I was rebuilding. Sophia and I were tracing great-grandmother Evelyn's history, uncovering hints that Ethan had tried to sell family assets tied to her legacy. Chloe started therapy, admitting Ethan had blackmailed her over her influencer deals. James and I met for cautious lunches, his apologies slowly building a fragile bridge. Victoria doubled down, insisting I'd overreacted, but I held my ground, declining her invitations to fix things. My apartment, once a neutral space to avoid family criticism, was now a riot of color. Navy walls, bold art, thriving plants. I hosted a 4th of July party with friends, James, Chloe, and Sophia, a new family built on respect. The pendant rested in a velvet box, worn only on days I needed Evelyn's strength. As I stood on my balcony, watching the city glow, I wrote in my journal, "I built my own table where I'm seen, valued, loved." And that's enough. The Ocean View Inn's room was a cocoon of quiet. The bay outside my window, a dark mirror reflecting the snow's soft descent. I sat cross-legged on the bed, the plush robe wrapped tightly around me, my journal open but untouched. The Christmas dinner plate sat half-eaten on the tray, the turkey cold, the cranberry sauce congealing. My phone buzzed again, a relentless pulse of demands and accusations from my family, but I ignored it, my eyes fixed on the velvet box, holding great-grandmother Evelyn's pendant. Its diamonds caught the lamplight, a reminder of the fight I'd just ignited. The dossier under Ethan's plate had torn open a wound in the Harper family, and I knew the fallout was only beginning. But another thought gnawed at me, colder than the winter night, the anonymous text from yesterday morning, "Stop digging or you'll regret it," and the brake failure on that icy Hamptons road. Someone didn't want me here, and I wasn't sure it was just... I sipped my coffee, now lukewarm, and forced myself to pick up the pen. Dr. Claire Bennett had taught me that journaling was a lifeline, a way to anchor myself when the world felt like quicksand. I wrote about the dinner, the way Ethan's face had drained of color when he saw the dossier, the way my mother's voice had cracked when she accused me of ruining Christmas. I wrote about Sophia's guilt, Chloe's silence, my father's hesitation, but mostly I wrote about the moment I walked away, the snow crunching under my heels, the weight lifting from my chest. For the first time in years, I'd chosen myself, yet the victory felt fragile, overshadowed by the nagging fear that Ethan's reach extended beyond family games. As a hedge fund manager, he swam in a world of power brokers and dirty money. Had I underestimated him? My phone lit up with a new message, this one from Sophia. "Can we meet tomorrow, 10 a.m., saltwater brew?" I need to talk about Ethan. I hesitated, my thumb hovering over the screen. Sophia had worn that pendant for years, believing Ethan's lies. Could I trust her now? I typed a quick reply. "Okay, 10 a.m., and turned off my phone. Sleep didn't come easily. Every creak of the hotel floorboards made me jump, the memory of that text and the brake failure looping in my mind. When I finally drifted off, I dreamed of a shadowy figure standing at the edge of the bay, watching me through the snow. Morning broke with a pale sun glinting off the water. I showered, pulled on jeans and a sweater, and tucked the pendant box into my purse. The saltwater brew was a short walk, its cedar-shingled exterior blending into the Hamptons' coastal charm. Inside, the air smelled of espresso and cinnamon, the decor a mix of nautical chic and holiday warmth. Wreaths on the walls, fairy lights strung across the ceiling. Sophia sat in a corner booth, her blonde hair pulled into a messy bun, her face bare of makeup. She looked younger, vulnerable, nothing like the polished cousin who'd flaunted the pendant last night. The pendant itself was nowhere in sight, and that small detail sent a spark of hope through me. "Thank you for coming," she said as I slid into the booth, her voice low, like she was afraid of being overheard. "I didn't sleep after you left. Everything fell apart." I ordered a latte, keeping my expression neutral. "What happened?" I asked. She took a shaky breath, her fingers twisting a napkin. "Liam grabbed the dossier before Ethan could destroy it. He read some of the texts out loud. Things Ethan said about you, about all of us. Rachel found messages to another woman, someone named Vanessa. Ethan tried to burn the papers in the fireplace, but Rachel stopped him. She was screaming, 'Emily, I've never seen her like that.'" Sophia's eyes met mine, red-rimmed and raw. "Then there was the will. You were right about the pendant. Ethan told me you didn't want it, that you'd told great-grandmother you thought it was tacky. I believed him." I leaned back, the latte's warmth seeping through the ceramic mug. "He's good at that," I said, "making people believe his version of the truth." Sophia nodded, tears spilling. "He said you were jealous of me, that you'd been talking behind my back for years. I thought you hated me, Emily, but last night when I saw those emails, I realized he'd played us against each other." She reached into her bag and pulled out a small velvet box, identical to mine. She slid it across the table. "This belongs to you." I opened it, and there it was, the pendant, its diamonds sparkling even in the cafe's soft light. A lump formed in my throat, memories of great-grandmother Evelyn flooding back, her stories of Paris, of surviving hardship, of the pendant as a symbol of strength. "Thank you," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Sophia wiped her eyes. "There's more. Ethan's been selling off family assets, things tied to Evelyn's estate. I found documents in his office last month, but I didn't understand them until now. I think he's hiding something bigger, Emily. Something dangerous." Her words hit like a punch. Ethan's hedge fund was a labyrinth of offshore accounts and shady deals. I'd been investigating him for months, quietly, for a story I hadn't yet published. Had he known? Was that why my brakes failed? Why I'd gotten that text? "What kind of documents?" I asked, leaning forward. Sophia glanced around, lowering her voice. "Ledgers, transfers to accounts in the Caymans, names I didn't recognize, but one kept coming up. Vanessa Moreau. The same woman from the texts." My pulse quickened. Vanessa Moreau wasn't just a mistress. She was a known fixer for Wall Street's elite, someone who made problems disappear. If Ethan was working with her, I'd poked a much bigger bear than I'd realized. Before I could press further, my phone buzzed with a news alert. I glanced at the screen and my blood ran cold. Star journalist Emily Harper, accused of fabricating stories, sources say. The byline was from a tabloid known for Wall Street's dirty laundry, and the article quoted insiders claiming I'd faked evidence in my exposés. My name, my face, splashed across a smear campaign. Ethan's doing, no doubt. Sophia saw my expression and grabbed my phone. "Oh my God," she whispered, scanning the article. "He's trying to destroy you." I forced myself to breathe, my mind racing. This wasn't just family drama anymore. Ethan was weaponizing his connections to ruin my career, maybe my life. I paid for our coffee and told Sophia to keep the documents safe. "Don't tell anyone you have them," I said, "not even Ryan." She nodded, her face pale, and we parted ways. the pendant box heavy in my purse. Back at the hotel, I opened my laptop and dug into Vanessa Moreau. My investigative instincts kicked in, pulling up databases I'd used to expose corrupt politicians. She was a ghost. Minimal digital footprint, but enough whispers in financial forums to confirm she was bad news. Money laundering, blackmail, even rumors of ties to organized crime. If Ethan was linked to her, the dossier I'd dropped last night had just lit a match in a powder keg. I checked my phone again. Another anonymous text. "You can't hide from us." Attached was a photo of my Manhattan apartment building taken from across the street. My stomach churned. Someone had been watching me, and they wanted me to know it. I called my editor, Sam, who'd been with me through every major story. "Emily, what the hell's going on?" he barked when I told him about the tabloid hit. "This smells like a setup. You've got enemies, but this is next level." I filled him in on Ethan, the dossier, the texts, the brake failure. Sam went quiet, then said, "Get out of the Hamptons, come back to the city. We'll figure this out." I packed my bag, my hands shaking, and checked out of the hotel, scanning the parking lot for any sign of a tail. The drive back to Manhattan was tense, every car in my rearview mirror a potential threat. I kept the pendant box in my jacket pocket, its weight grounding me. When I reached my apartment, I found the door slightly ajar. My heart stopped. I pushed it open, my phone ready to dial 911. The place was trashed, bookshelves overturned, drawers emptied, my laptop gone. But the worst was the USB drive, the one with my backup dossier on Ethan, missing from its hiding spot in a hollowed-out book. Someone had been here, and they knew exactly what to take. Called the police, but their response was perfunctory. Another break-in in a city full of them. I knew better. This was Ethan, or Vanessa, or both. I spent the night at a friend's place, Kimberly, a fellow journalist who'd become my rock. Over glasses of red wine, I told her everything. "You need to go public," she said, her eyes fierce. "Expose Ethan before he buries you." I shook my head. "I need more proof. If I publish now, it's my word against his, and he's got the money and the connections." Kimberly frowned but didn't push. "Just be careful, Em. This feels bigger than family drama." The next week was a blur of paranoia and survival. The tabloid story spread, my inbox flooded with hate mail from readers who'd once praised me. My newsroom office was hit next. Files on Ethan's hedge fund gone, my desk drawers rifled through. Sam put me on leave, not because he doubted me, but to protect the paper's reputation. "Lay low," he said. "We'll fight this." But laying low wasn't in my DNA. I kept digging, using burner accounts to track Vanessa Moreau's connections. I found a thread, a shell company linked to Ethan's fund, funneling money to a Cayman account tied to her. It wasn't enough for a story, but it was a start. Then came the gala. It was a charity event in Manhattan, black tie, the kind of place where Wall Street's elite mingled with politicians and celebrities. I went to keep up appearances to show Ethan I wasn't cowering. I wore a sleek black gown, the pendant around my neck for courage, its diamonds glinting under the chandeliers. I was chatting with a senator when Ethan appeared, his face a mask of charm for the crowd, but his eyes cold as ice when they met mine. He pulled me aside, near the coat room, out of earshot. "You think you can take me down?" he hissed, his breath hot against my ear. "I have friends who can make you disappear, Emily. Back off, or you're done." Security was nearby, but I felt exposed, the pendant suddenly heavy against my skin. I smiled, my voice steady. "I've got copies of everything, Ethan, and I'm not the only one who knows." His jaw clenched, and for a moment I thought he might hit me. Then he turned and vanished into the crowd. I left the gala early, my heart pounding. The anonymous texts kept coming, each one more specific. "We know where you sleep. Your friend Kimberly's next." I installed a new security system, changed my locks, and started carrying pepper spray, but the fear was constant, a shadow that followed me everywhere. I met with Sophia again, this time at a diner in Brooklyn, far from the Hamptons' prying eyes. She handed me a USB drive, not mine, but one she'd found in Ethan's office. "I don't know what's on it," she said, her voice trembling. "But it's encrypted. Ryan says it's serious, maybe evidence of fraud." I took it, my mind racing. If this was what I thought, it could be the key to taking Ethan down, but it also made me a bigger target. Chloe called me a few days later, her voice hesitant. "I saw the tabloid story," she said, "and I know about the dossier. Ethan's losing it, Em. Rachel's gone. She filed for divorce after finding more texts to Vanessa. But there's something else." She paused, and I could hear her breathing, unsteady. "Ethan threatened me. He said if I talk to you, he'll leak my sponsorship deals. Stuff I did early on, shady brand partnerships. I stayed quiet at dinner because I was scared." I gripped the phone, anger and pity warring inside me. "Well, didn't you say anything?" I asked. "I wanted to," she said, her voice breaking. "But I didn't know how." "Can we meet? I want to be better, Em. A real sister." I agreed, cautiously, to lunch the next week. My father's call came next, a surprise after years of silence in Ethan's shadow. "I failed you," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I let Ethan run this family because it was easier than fighting him or your mother. I'm sorry, Emily. Can we talk?" I wasn't ready to forgive, but I agreed to meet for coffee, a small step toward something new. Victoria, on the other hand, doubled down. Her voicemails were a mix of guilt trips and denial. "You've torn this family apart, Emily. We can fix this if you apologize to Ethan." I deleted them, my resolve hardening. She'd chosen her side and it wasn't mine. The USB drive from Sophia was a game changer. Nathan, the cybersecurity expert I'd started seeing, helped me crack it. Inside were financial records, millions funneled through shell companies, linked to Vanessa Moreau and a network of offshore accounts. It was enough to bury Ethan, but publishing it would put me in the crosshairs of people far more dangerous than my brother. Nathan urged me to go to the FBI, but I hesitated. I needed to be sure, to have every piece in place. He set up a secure server for my files, his calm presence a lifeline in the chaos. "You're not alone in this," he said, his hand warm against mine. For the first time, I believed it. Then the hammer fell. I came home one night to find my apartment door marked with a red X, spray-painted across the wood. Inside, nothing was taken, but a note was pinned to my fridge. "Last warning." My hands shook as I called the police, but they had no leads. Kimberly insisted I stay with her, and Nathan installed trackers on my phone and car. The fear was suffocating, but I refused to back down. I started drafting the exposé, working late into the night, every creak of Kimberly's apartment making me jump. The story was explosive. Hedge fund titan Ethan Harper linked to money laundering scheme. I sent a draft to Sam, who called immediately. "This is Pulitzer material, Em, but it's a death wish. You sure you want to pull this trigger?" I wasn't sure, but I couldn't stop now. The lunch with Chloe was a turning point. We met at a quiet bistro in Soho, her usual influencer glow dimmed by exhaustion. "I'm in therapy," she admitted, stirring her cappuccino. I thought being the baby of the family was a privilege, but it was a cage. Ethan controlled me, just like he controlled everyone. "I'm sorry I didn't stand up for you at Christmas." Her eyes were earnest, and I felt a crack in the wall between us. "It's not too late," I said. "But it starts with honesty." She nodded, promising to share what she knew about Ethan's deals. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was a start. Sophia and I grew closer, our meetings now a regular thing. We dug into great-grandmother Evelyn's history, uncovering letters that hinted at a scandal Ethan had buried, a land deal tied to the family's wealth that he'd tried to sell off. The pendant, it turned out, wasn't just sentimental. It was a key to a trust fund Ethan had been siphoning. Sophia was furious, her loyalty to Ethan shattered. "I want to help you," she said, "whatever it takes." We became allies, piecing together a puzzle that could bring him down. My father's coffee meeting was awkward, but real. He admitted his cowardice, his eyes damp as he recounted years of enabling Ethan. "I thought I was keeping the peace," he said, "but I was just failing you." I didn't absolve him, but I listened, and we agreed to keep talking. Victoria, meanwhile, sent a final text. "You're choosing to destroy this family. Don't expect an invitation to Easter." I didn't respond. Her denial was her problem, not mine. Spring came, and with it, a new kind of life. My apartment was a haven now, its teal walls and vibrant art, a reflection of the woman I was becoming. I hosted a 4th of July party, the city skyline glittering beyond my balcony. James, Chloe, Sophia, Nathan, and Kimberly were there, laughing over burgers and sparklers. Victoria wasn't invited, and for the first time, I felt no guilt. The pendant stayed in its box, worn only when I needed Evelyn's strength, like the day I submitted my exposé to Sam. The story hit the presses in June, a bombshell that rocked Wall Street. Ethan's fund collapsed, investors fled, and the FBI opened an investigation. The anonymous texts stopped, but I knew Vanessa Moreau was still out there, a shadow waiting to strike. My career soared, the tabloid smear forgotten in the wake of my triumph. Nathan and I grew closer, his support unwavering. Chloe and I started weekly lunches, slowly rebuilding a sisterhood. Sophia and I continued our genealogy project, honoring Evelyn's legacy. One evening, as summer painted the sky in hues of gold, I stood on my balcony, the pendant around my neck. I'd won, not just against Ethan, but against the part of me that had spent years begging for a seat at a table that didn't want me. I'd built my own, surrounded by people who saw me, valued me, loved me. And as I watched the city pulse below, I knew the most important victory was choosing myself.